Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Michael. I'm the developer behind OccaSoftware. We make game assets for Unity. If you enjoy this content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. So today I'm going to walk through the newest shader that I've released, the grass shader for Unity URP. Basically, it's an interactive, really beautiful looking, stylized and realistic grass shader for URP. It supports cutting, erasing, wind, lights, decals, tinting. It's really powerful and it can offer a lot for your project. So first I'll give an overview about what the grass can do, and then I will go through each of the different features and kind of show them off and talk about a little bit more about how to use them. So first of all, basically this shader allows you to create really visually stunning, uniquely fuzzy grass. It uses a specific rendering technique called the shell and fur technique that's typically used, shell and fin technique that's typically used for fur. But in this case, we're applying it to grass. And this is really flexible because, in fact, we're not actually rendering any individual blades of grass, but rather we're simulating sort of a grass density field using a set of planes that we extrude from a source plane. So here you can see we're doing this on just a plane, but you can also do it to a cube, for example, or to a sphere. And so this can be applied really to any shape mesh and it'll work. And you can see that here on the sphere, it's kind of being culled on the side. And that's a feature that we've added in to give you more control. So it doesn't need to be culled on the side like that. That's an optional feature. It supports additional lights, like you can see here, decals as well, periodic and turbulent wind lighting, coverage masks that let you draw into the grass itself. It also supports UV and world space mapping, grass directional mapping, shape and detail noise, distance fading. So if you zoom all the way out, you can see that first of all, it's affected by the fog, and second of all, it'll fade out as you get quite far away. For example, I'll just do an example here where we'll take this fade out distance quite low, and you can see that it fades out quite nicely there. It supports surface normal fading, like what we see on this sphere. It can cast and receive shadows. So here's an example of it casting shadows. So this is the mesh casting shadows, and you can see that the grass down here is receiving the shadows as well. In addition to that, when the grass is receiving shadows, you can actually toggle that. So you can turn off the shadows, turn off the ability to cast shadows. You can disable direct lighting, disable ambient lighting, and disable fog. So there's a lot of options that you have for customizing that. This was designed with performance in mind, but it is not the lightest effect. So do keep in mind that it is that I really wouldn't recommend it for mobile platform, but definitely for desktop, you'll get really beautiful grass. And on mobile, depending on the platform, you can bring the shell count down and it could work. But just kind of keep that in mind that it can be quite a performance intensive effect, but getting this level of density with compute or GPU based grass would, in my opinion, be quite expensive as well on mobile. And so this is a good alternative to that as well. And so finally, we also introduce some creative lighting algorithms that give the grass a really unique look that you won't be able to find in other grass shaders. So it's super powerful, a lot of flexibility, and now we'll go through sort of the inspector and the custom GUI that I created for that inspector and take a look at the different features. And we'll also look through what we include with the asset. So we'll kind of just go through here on the right side. You can see that we include color for the grass and the ground. So this is both a map and a texture and a color. So you can set the color if you'd like, but you can also change the map. We include 13 different grass color maps ranging from, pretty stylized hand-painted ones to ones that we, either photographed and then manipulated using tile maps and things like that. So we either painted it or they're from photos. And so you can have really realistic or really stylized look there. And then we also included ground map. You can see the ground map has a bit of an effect. And that's because we interpolate between the ground color and the surface color, the grass color. And to really show off the ground color, I'll go into the coverage and I'll just click one of these masks that I have. So you can see here that it supports additional lights. And here we're using this coverage mask to extrude out the area around where this texture is present. And you can see the ground here. So we included some ground textures as well. And you can use any of your own textures, and you can also tint that. So you can bring that tint way down so that it is the exact look that you're going for. And then when you remove that, there you go. So next thing we'll look at is the geometry section. So basically the way that this grass works is we basically extrude a set of shells out from in the direction of the normal from the source mesh. So here we have a source mesh, which is just a plane, and then we're extruding out these shells. You can control the shell count. When you get to quite low shell counts, the sort of visual effects does start to break down. So I recommend having a slightly higher shell count, and I think that looks quite nice. You can control the maximum height, bringing it quite low, or bringing it quite high up. Just bear in mind that you can see these visible gaps, and one way to get around those visible gaps is by disabling the cast shadows and kind of keeping the maximum height not too great. So I typically recommend something between 0.25 and 1 for the maximum height, but do what makes sense based on your project and based on what you how you want your project to look. So as you can see, we have these like visible shells that are showing up here now, and when we have those, it doesn't always look that great. So we also introduce these fins that can help to kind of hide that effect. So just keep in mind that that's an option depending on how the game is looking and how your project's looking and sort of the point of view of the character. This grass works really, really well for top-down view. For a side view, it clearly does break down a little bit, but for a top-down view, I really think this is the best grass that you can use. You can also disable the shells entirely if you'd like. Just if you're debugging or want to see just the fins on their own, something like that. So that's what the fins look like on their own, and the shells just on their own, and then both together. So now we're going to go into the noise section. So the noise is basically consisting of two different types of noise. So we have shape noise and detail noise. We've included 23 different noise textures, and you can see that you can choose from all of these different ones, and they give you sort of slightly different effects. So this one's kind of got these lines in it, and if you really bring the noise value quite strong, you can see that it's creating quite an interesting look. And so basically the way that this works is we take the shape noise at the scale that you include. At a lower scale, it tiles more frequently. At a greater scale, it tiles less frequently. And based on the value you include here, we'll extrude down towards the ground layer. Same thing for the detail noise. So you can choose from a bunch of different detail noise textures, and they'll give you a really different grass look without having to paint grass or do anything crazy like that. So it gives you a lot of control there. Okay, for now, we're gonna skip the interactivity section. We'll get back to that. There's also a wind function, so you can control the wind direction, the wind lighting, which you can see here when I bump it up a little bit. The main wind strength, the pulse frequency, wind turbulence, and the strength of that turbulence, as well as the speed and scale of it. So a lot of wind controls. Just for example, if I bring this high, you can see that we're having this sort of turbulence effect. If we bring the pulse strength up quite a lot, you can see that there's sort of these waves that are occurring. And if we bring the main wind strength up, you can see that the overall effect just kind of leans in the direction of the main wind. There's also a direction map that you can include. So I'll show you without the direction map. The grass is sort of just pointing straight up. If you include the direction map, then the grass will lean in the direction of the The grass will lean in the direction that's specified in the direction map. And we've included a bunch of different textures that you can use for this. You can control the intensity of that effect as well. So you can see if we start to get something quite high, it becomes really interesting, the visual look that you can achieve. Even something low like 20 here kind of lets us twist and pull the grass in different directions. And yeah, it gives a really interesting visual look of having the grass not really just being quite boring and just straight up and down. We also have the grass rendering settings. So this includes the fade out and fade out start distance is the distance at which the grass will begin fading out, and then the maximum rendering distance, which after that point will only render the ground of the grass. So you can see here that sort of like a progressive fade out. And so that's really good for saving on performance. The default value of 200 is pretty high, but it really depends on your use case. And so something even as low as 10 to 20 here could be really good and help you save a lot on performance. You can also choose to fade by the surface normal. So I'll do that on this one. So if we disable the fading on the surface normal, you can see that this sphere now has grass coming out from every direction, and this cube as well. So you can really see here the extent to which it's being extruded along the surface normal of the mesh. And, you know, that can work in some cases. Bear in mind that for meshes that we have different sampling methods, right? So you can either sample in UV space or world space. When we're sampling in world space, you know, we're doing it on the XZ plane. So the grass that's at a sort of direct horizontal won't really look right. So if you are gonna have it, you know, extruded horizontally here, make sure to have your UV space setting turned on. So typically you would have, you know, if fade by surface normal is turned on, then you could use world space. But if it's disabled, then I would recommend using UV space. Whereas for, you know, just normal terrains, I personally think that the world space sampling method is a lot better and more effective in general. So I would typically recommend that. Yeah, so then we'll also cover the decals. So you can see here that we have a decal projector. You can move it around, bring it out and put it back down. And so you can use decals with this. It also supports additional lights for both, you know, point lights and spotlights. And if we move the directional light of the scene, you can see that the grass lighting will change as well. Okay, so that's super cool. And then we'll go to the interactivity. So basically, for the interactivity to work, you need to have an interactivity camera. We've included a demo here. And that should have an output texture, which is an interactivity map. And you need to have the grass interactivity renderer attached to that camera. And it can follow things around the scene, but for most scenes, you probably won't need to do that. And basically, you'll just set that up. And then the way it works is that you'll have these different particle systems in your scene, or even just transparent textures. These you should apply to the transparent FX layer, or if you want, you can choose, where is it? Okay. You can choose whatever culling mask you want from your interactivity camera. Just make sure that the interactivity particles are on the same layer that you've chosen as your culling mask. So blue is tinting. So it'll tint it. You can see here we're tinting it red, and the color that it tints is decided from here. So you can tint it, you know, orange or green or blue or pink or whatever. So that's one thing that you can do. And you can control that obviously from the particle system. From your main camera, I would recommend removing the transparent FX layer mask as well. So that's tinting. You can also fully remove grass like this. And so this is really great if you have like an object in your scene and you want to like have the grass disappear when you're moving the object around in your scene. So that's indicated with a red color. The tint is with a blue color. Remove is with a red color. And then you can also cut the grass. So it's sort of like a partial remove. And that one's indicated with a green color. So yeah, that's the interactivity. For the interactivity camera, you just need to make sure that it's positioned in your scene. It'll automatically fade out towards the edge here. So, don't worry about any like sudden culling. It'll automatically fade out. And if you do have a target, you can put the target in here and it'll automatically follow that target. So that'll be an orthographic camera, just pointing straight down. Okay, so that's the sort of high-level overview about grass and what it can do and the different features. I'm really excited to have this out on the asset store now and to see what you guys are able to make with it. I think it'll be really powerful and give you guys a lot of flexibility and creativity options for how you take your scenes forward. All right, so looking forward to seeing what you guys think. Thanks for watching.